I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that 80% of people who ever exercise do so because they primarily want to improve the way they look. After all, we are very visual by nature, and so it makes sense that we place a huge emphasis on our appearance. A big part of our appearance is how thin we are. That's pretty obvious. Which means that most people lift weights in order to get thinner. That's a pretty logical conclusion, I think, and I doubt many would ever argue with that. So exercise is a way of just boosting the metabolism so you can burn more calories so you can lose weight in a pretty direct one-to-one fashion. While that will work, it follows a similar principle of if you want to pass a class, just read the whole textbook. Like, yes, that will do it, but there's got to be a smarter way. And there is a smarter way, and that's to get a V-taper.
To explain what a V-taper is, I find it useful to think about a triangle. Well, more specifically, an upside-down triangle. In a lot of ways, an upside-down triangle represents the most extreme V-taper there is, wide at the top and narrow at the bottom. Of course, in the real world, a V-taper will look more like this. Its top width is unchanged, while its bottom has gotten way bigger. Why do we have this shape though? And why is it appealing? The short answer is that it's due to the anatomy of our upper body. I can cut the body into 3 segments: the top third, the middle third, and the bottom third, each with its own structure, which I think of as a hard or soft framing. Each third also has its own muscle that is attached to its corresponding frame. Starting at the top third, the framing side is comprised of the ribcage, the clavicle, the humerus, and the scapula, all of which are hard. The muscle side is comprised of the chest, the shoulders, and the traps. Moving on to the middle third, we have the hard ribcage and the scapula again, plus the peritoneum, a soft sac containing your stomach and intestines, with the muscles being the traps, the abs, and the lats. Finally, the bottom third has only the soft peritoneum for framing and the abs for muscle. Quickly, I want to explain why the numbers on the muscle side don't match up with the number of muscles in the model.
You see, most of the muscles I have listed are actually part of muscle groups. Instead of cluttering up the screen with a bunch of individual muscles, I chose to list them by their common names. Plus, had I gone in depth on the muscle side, I would have felt obligated to go in depth on the framing side, and no one wants that. Getting back to the point though, depending on what our muscles are resting on, so whether or not that surface is a hard surface or a soft surface, is what makes a V-taper so natural, desirable, and smart to do.
As you go top down, from the shoulders to the pelvis, the number of muscles on hard frames drop. When you exercise a muscle on a hard frame, it translates to size faster than on a soft frame.
Our chest, shoulders, and traps make this ring around the upper part of our body, the top third of it. As muscle is added to that ring, I get bigger very quickly because it's sitting all on hard surfaces. Whereas on the bottom third of my upper body, where all I have is that soft peritoneum, when I'm adding mass to my abdominals, I'm not going to grow nearly as big and nearly as quickly. So let's say that you worked out your entire upper body evenly. So your top third, middle third, and bottom third. Well, you're going to go ahead and you're going to use a bunch of muscles, which means you're going to ramp up your metabolism a whole lot. That's going to translate to a lot of calories being burned. And you're going to look thinner because your shoulders are going to look wider than your belly.
Meaning that if we took this drawing and we made the top wider, the bottom looks narrow all of a sudden. Without directly changing the bottom, we've made it look thinner.
That's the whole point of the V-taper, to look thinner based off of visual trickery. So if you want to have more of a V-taper, here are a few of the exercises that I do.
To hit my upper third, I will do steep incline push-ups, which are like a normal push-up, except your butt is way high in the air, as to simulate a handstand push-up, and weighted runs, where I just run in place with weights in my hands. For the middle third, you cannot go wrong with pull-ups. And for the bottom third, reverse planks are a favorite of mine.
I've chosen exercises like these for a very simple reason. I like my exercises to be as flexible as possible, and so they have to be minimal equipment exercises. And that desire of flexibility has forced me to be creative with the exercises that I choose, and think outside of the box at times. The weighted runs were meant to help train my calves during the winter when I couldn't go out to run. Because whenever it's really cold outside, my nasal passage just dries out and it becomes very painful to run. So I needed a way to train my calves, make them stronger, because they are the weakest part of my lower body by a mile. So I thought, if I can't go for distance, then I'll just increase the weight and I will run in place, because that's bound to do something, right? And it did. It's a fantastic calf exercise. With the added bonus of also being a fantastic trap exercise. Your trap's job is to stabilize your shoulders so that when you pick something up, you don't fall over. Normally, whenever you work the traps, you do shrugs. But when I think about it, you don't ever really shrug in real life. I've never thought, okay, I need to pick something up, so I'm gonna pick it up and then shrug it to my ear. Like that doesn't happen. Instead, you pick stuff up and hold it. And I'm doing that very thing with the weighted runs. I'm just doing it with two 30-pound objects while bouncing up and down, so it's a more extreme version of what real life demands, which makes it the ideal exercise in my head. Well, that's everything I have for you right now, so until I see you next time, have a good one.